Welcome back, guys, to Liberate Your Bliss. And today we're diving into something that has fascinated people, seekers, and dreamers for centuries. And this is tarot. And I absolutely love using this with my clients. For some, tarot is just a deck of cards with pretty pictures on it. But for others, it's fortune telling. It can be mysterious or taboo. But the truth, tarot is so much deeper than any stereotype that you've given it, and it's a mirror of the human journey, our cycles, our archetypes, and our growth. And it's not about predicting a rigid future. When we pull tarot cards, it's more about reflection, intuition, and uncovering the deeper truths already alive within you. So, if you've ever wondered what the cards really mean, how to work with them, stay with me. I'm going to explore the numbers, the major arcana, also known as the Fool's Journey, the minor arcana, and how tarot is really a living, intuitive conversation with your soul. So let's step first into the major arcana. Those are the big cards, the soul lesson. There are 22 of them, and together they tell us what's called the Fool's Journey. This is your soul's life adventure. So we start with the Fool, right? The Fool is the beginning. Innocence, curiosity, trust. They stand at the edge of a cliff, ready to leap without knowing what's below. This card invites us to take risks, to trust the unknown, and to start something new, even if we feel unprepared. And this card is really what sparks the new chapters in our life. And if you start to look at your life as a ceremony or as a movie, it's really cool to think about when we were the fool, right? We were the fool when we went to college for the first time. We were a fool when we went to high school. We were a fool when we went on the bus as kindergartners. We were a fool in our first relationship. We were a fool when we had babies. There's so many times that we have played this role where we just have no idea what to do and we have to take a leap of faith. So then we meet the magician. That's the next card. And the magician shows the fool that they have the tools of creation. In this card, they have a wand, the cup, the sword, the pentacle, and the magician says, you already have everything you need within you. This is the energy of manifestation and turning ideas into reality, where the fool can trust that stepping into this new chapter is going to be incredible. And the high priestess comes next. She's mysterious, silent, and she's holding the scroll of hidden knowledge, and she reminds the fool, not everything is revealed through the mind, through logic. Some truths live in our intuition, in dreams, and in the subconscious. And she invites us to trust our inner knowing. And after her is the Empress. And the fool encounters the Empress, and she's seated in these lush fields, radiating beauty and abundance. She is Mother Earth. She is creativity, sensuality, fertility. She whispers, life is meant to be enjoyed, nurtured, and expressed. And after that, we meet the Emperor. And he's like the father figure, order, structure, authority. And he reminds the fool that boundaries, discipline, and stability are also necessary. He represents leadership and responsibility. The next person that the fool meets is the Hierophant, which is the spiritual teacher, the bridge to tradition. Here, the lesson is about community, shared wisdom, and sometimes the rules of society, and it asks what beliefs do you follow and which ones are ready to be questioned. And when we pull any of these cards, it's really important to start to read the energy of what's going on. When we pull the Hierophant, sometimes it can be that we are living in a system that is not supporting our soul. And that's where the intuitive part of reading these is really, really fun. But let's continue down this journey of the major arcana, because the Lovers comes next. And this is the most important part of your journey. For each one of us, when we fell in love, that was kind of when we became a little bit mischievous, unless we had, arranged marriages and things like that. When we fell in love, it was when we kind of stepped outside of the program. The Lovers card not only talks about relationship and love, but it brings us choice about love, about union, about values, but it's also a crossroads in the journey. The Fool learns that decisions made from the heart shape our destiny. So this card can come up when we're talking about aligning actions with what truly matters. And when we pull the Chariot, which is the next card, this is when we charge forward. Victory through willpower, determination, and focus. When the Fool comes into contact with the Chariot, we have to learn that discipline and clarity of direction can overcome obstacles. The Chariot is about stepping outside of the boundaries or the walls of what we've been really moving through in life. It warns us about arrogance, but it invites us to step out and take action. And that comes with the next card, which is strength. We have to lean into that strength, inner strength. There's a woman gently taming a lion there. And she's not taming it through force, but with compassion. So this card reminds us that courage comes from patience, softness, and love. And after the Fool has gone through so much, and now he's, facing the Strength card, he hits the Hermit. This is when we kind of withdraw in life. The Hermit walks alone. He has a lantern in his hand, and this is when we start to see that maybe everything that we've been searching for outside of ourselves, we have to turn in for that inner wisdom, for that solitude, for that introspection. Because the answers are found only in the silence. It's not external. And when we realize that, we hit the wheel of fortune. That's when the wheel turns and life shifts and fate changes, because the Fool sees that life is cyclical. Ups, downs, beginnings, ends, and that from the inside in the stillness, we can surrender to life's lessons, trusting that nothing stays the same and that we're always moving through this wheel and through the chapters. Once we recognize that, the Fool faces justice, truth, fairness, and accountability. Because once we become conscious, we have to really see that every action has consequences. And this card asks us to take responsibility for what we're creating in life and live in alignment with honesty, seeking clarity when life feels confusing, but not looking outside of ourselves. This justice is all about us kind of working through what's going on in our own life. And this brings us to the next card, which is the Hanged Man. This is the Fool hanging upside down, suspended between worlds. This is the surrender part of our healing journey, when we have to let go of control. We have to see life from a new angle. And sometimes we got to pause. Sometimes we have to sacrifice, and sometimes we have to release to gain wisdom. This is a lot of where people are at in their journeys now in this world. I see when we're oscillating between the Hanged Man and death, which is the next card. We are letting go of things that are not serving us. And this isn't an end, this is a beginning as well, right? Because death and birth are the same. In death, we must transform. We have to shed those old skins, those old chapters have to close. And the Fool learns that every ending is also a new beginning. Death is rebirth. And this is a huge part of the journey, because after the intensity of death, and for any of you that have experienced ego death, you know what I'm talking about. We meet the next card, which is Temperance. And that's this beautiful angel, blending water between two cups, balancing harmony and moderation. And the lesson here is integration, weaving opposites into something new. And this is where I think a lot of us don't spend enough time on our healing journey, because we're constantly healing, believing that we're broken. And Temperance is really about resting. It's about taking time to learn the lesson, to learn what this whole Fool's journey has taught us, so that we can really begin to step into this new part of who we are. And when this happens, we have to confront the shadow, which is the Devil card. The devil represents temptation, addiction, illusions of being trapped in the old story. This is when we see the mirror of our fears, our desires, and our attachments. And the lesson with this is we are only bound if we choose to be. And in that moment, we hit the tower. Lightning strikes, tower falls, everything the Fool thought was stable crumbles. And this is when sudden change, revelation, and all of these crazy things happen in your life. And it can be really painful. But in this moment, we're clearing all those false foundations so truth can be rebuilt. And for this, when people start their Kundalini journeys especially, I feel as if they're not prepared a lot for this. Because when you're saying, I'd like to step into the alignment of my soul, your soul is going to say, okay, cool. Well, you know what? We're going to let go, and we're going to take out all of the things that the ego has created out of their initial beliefs of I'm unworthy of love, or I'm not enough, or I'm going to end up alone. And in that, we may have created some pretty cool things. Maybe we've got a job that we like. Maybe there's a guy, whatever it is. But when we take that foundational creation thought and we shift it in this new chapter, anything that was built in alignment with that old vibration has to fall. And that can be really hard for the ego, because the ego doesn't like change, doesn't like the unknown. So a lot of people that face these tower moments, they end up oscillating tower, devil for a while, death, rebirth. And it takes them a long time to get to the next card, because the next card is the Star. And out of the rubble, of all of the stuff that's fallen apart, the star pours water into earth with this stream, offering healing. And this is true healing, true renewal. This is faith, inspiration, and light after darkness. This is when the fool is reminded, I know it's been really hard. I know we've had to take a lot from you, but can you trust the universe again? Can you trust your spirit again? And in that, we hit the moon where the path grows uncertain, and the moon casts shadows and illusions, and it represents our dreams, our fears, our subconscious. And this is when the fool is learning to navigate uncertainty and trusting intuition, even when the path isn't clear. And when we start to trust our intuition again, that's when the sun comes out, the next card, with clarity and joy and radiance. It shines all that warmth, celebrates vitality, and the fool learns that joy is the source of strength and truth in this life. And this is the great awakening when we hit judgment. The trumpet sound, the fool faces a call from the soul to rise, let go of the past, step into their higher purpose. This is the rebirth, self-forgiveness, and awakening. And I think when people see judgment, they start to think about religion in a way, right? Like judgment. This is when we meet God and judgment is happening. And it's like, am I going to go to heaven or hell? It's like, no, judgment is the time when you recognize you've been creating heaven or hell, and you can see beyond that everything was created from your own judgment of yourself. And that if we can step out of that illusion and we can just celebrate the fact that everything that we've done in our life has been in our power and in our creation, we hit the world, which is that final card. At last, completion. The fool dances in a wreath in this card, whole and free. This is fulfillment, integration, wholeness. The fool has become the world. But here's the crazy part, guys. And here's the secret to all of this stuff. The journey never ends. Because once we have that ending chapter, we become the world, guess where we go next? The fool again. Because now we're going into the fool, into a higher spiral of wisdom. So think of your own life right now. Where are you in this journey? Are you in the tower, everything crumbling, or basking in the star, where everything's hopeful and renewed? Are you the fool stepping out into the unknown? Tarot doesn't just tell you, it reflects that to you, and that's the beauty. And after the Fool's Journey, where we've gone through the Major Arcana, the big sweeping archetypes, we arrive at the Minor Arcana of the Tarot. And these are the everyday details of life. And they don't speak in myth or destiny, but in daily experience, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act, and the way we build our lives. So there are 4 suits in the tarot, and each one is tied to one of the 4 elements of nature. So think of them like 4 different currents of energy that we move through. And I'll try to help explain that. So the wands, that's your fire signs. Wands are fire. Passion, creativity, drive, energy. When you pull a wand card, you're being asked about what lights you up, what ignites your spirit. Because fire is inspiration. It's the spark of a new idea, the courage to take a risk, the hunger to create something out of nothing. But just like fire, wands can also burn. They can become impatience, aggression, burnout. So the wand asks, how are you using your fire right now? Are you inspired or are you consumed? Because we have to remember we're in a polar field and each element carries a light and a dark. So the cups, water, cups are water. They rule emotions, love, intuition, relationships. And when you pull a cup, you're being asked to check in with your heart space. Water is about how we feel, how it flows, how it connects, how it heals. And it reminds us of our capacity for empathy and intimacy. But water can also drown us in nostalgia, in fantasy, or overwhelm. So the cup asks, what are you feeling right now? Are you flowing with your emotions or are you lost in them? Are you worried or are you empowered in them? And then we have the swords. That's our air signs. This is all about the mind, thoughts, clarity, conflict. And when you pull a sword card, it's a mirror for your mental state and the stories that you're telling yourself. Air is words and ideas. It can cut through illusion, bringing sharp truth and perspective. But air can also scatter, confuse, or wound. Words can liberate or destroy. So the sword asks, what story are you telling yourself? Is it bringing clarity or chaos? And lastly, we've got the pentacles. Those are the earth signs. Pentacles are earth. They are the body, work, money, home, grounding. When you pull a pentacle card, it's bringing you back to the material world, the tangible, the practical. So earth is where we talk about manifestation, planting seeds, building structures, and creating stability. But too much earth can be heavy, stagnant, overly focused on security. So if you have too much earth, maybe you're in scarcity mindset or you're stuck. So what are you building or grounding right now? Is it aligned or comfortable? Fire asks, what drives you? Water asks, how do you feel? air asks, what are you thinking? And earth asks, what are you building? And together, these four suits mirror the balance of life and passion, feeling, thought, and form. And just like nature, when one element takes over, we can fall out of balance. When they dance together, fire sparkling water into the streams, air feeding the fire, earth holding water, we come into wholeness. And the next part is we pull those cards, and there's also numbers. And these numbers aren't random, they're cycles. We go from 1 to 10, and they map the journey of growth, challenge, completion, and the rise and fall of energy. So when you pull a card, you're not just seeing the element, you're seeing the element within a cycle of how that element is showing up. So I'll try to break this down. Ace is like this is the seed, pure potential, the spark, the gift, the raw energy of the suit. It hasn't taken form yet. It's a beginning, a doorway. So the Ace of Wands is like a new idea, a burst of creativity. Ace of Cups would be like new love, new relationship, new emotional opening. Ace of Swords, a new thought, a breakthrough, a truth. An Ace of Pentacles could be like a job offer or a chance to ground abundance. The next numbers, I'm just going to kind of break them down to you. 2 is about duality and choice. They bring contrast. They ask, will you commit, balance, or waver? They often show decision points, partnerships, or conflicts. 3s are about expansion, growth, collaboration. 3s are where energy starts to begin to build outwardly. It's about community, creativity, expression. It shows momentum. 4s are super stable. This is about foundation, stability, structure. It brings a lot of grounding into the container. It's stability, but it can also be stagnancy. So 4 can ask you, is your foundation solid or are you stuck? 5 is all about change, conflict, and challenges. They really disrupt things. When you pull a 5, they're shaking up the container. They're stirring chaos. This is like growing pains, tension, loss, instability, but it's always in service of transformation. So when you pull a 5, it's not scary. It's just you're in the middle of transformation. Whereas 6 is all about harmony and balance. It's sweet, relief after the storm, the harmony, the beauty, the generosity, a reminder of the flow returning. 7 is all about questioning, assessments, faith. 7s are spiritual pauses. They ask us to look deeper and reassess or trust the unseen. And sometimes can be really frustrating, but it's always growth oriented. And 8s, when you pull an 8, this is power, mastery, momentum, super strong number. This is about structure and motion. It's about harnessing energy and aligning effort and stepping into empowerment. When we start pulling 9s, that's about fruition, nearing completion. 9s are full but not final. It's about kind of the ripeness, the lessons that were learned. Sometimes they can be heavy. It can be like the last test before the release. And then 10, when you pull a 10, completion, culmination, transition. 10s are the full cycle, abundance, culmination, or collapse. And they represent both fullness and ending. And after a 10, we circle back to an ace, starting anew, just like the Fool. So bringing this together, when you see a card, you can read it like a sentence. The suit tells you the element, fire, water, air, earth. And the number tells you where in the cycle you are. So for example, if you pull the 2 of Swords, the mind at a crossroads, a choice needing clarity. The 7 of Cups, emotions, clouded illusions needing to discern what's real. 9 of Pentacles, the material world at a place of independence, luxury, self-sufficiency. And this is where tarot gets rich. You can't memorize these cards, guys. It's not 78 strict meanings. You're learning a system of elements and numbers to tell a story. And then, to top it all off, we have the court cards. That's your pages, knights, queens, and kings. Think of them like archetypes or roles we step into, and they each carry the flavor of their suit. The page is like the student or the messenger. They're curious, open, new beginnings. The page is playful, like an inner child kind of, inexperienced, learning through trying. They bring new ideas, new invitations. In Wands, they're exploring passion. In Cups, exploring feelings. In Swords, exploring new thoughts. And in Pentacles, exploring work or the body. The Knight, though, that's the seeker and the doer. They're like action-oriented, driven, sometimes impulsive, but the Knight takes action. The Knight moves, they chase, they pursue, they embody momentum. They're not always wise, but they're brave. And a Knight of Wands is really adventurous and restless, chasing their passion. A Knight of Cups could be like a romantic, heart-led quest. Knight of Swords is more like charging in with words and ideas, and a Knight of Pentacles can be steady, hardworking, and committed. The Queen is all about embodiment. That's that inner authority. Deeply connected, intuitive, receptive power. Queens embody the essence of their suit in a very lived, felt way. So the Queen of Wands is magnetic, creative fire. The Queen of Cups is emotional depth and compassion. The Queen of Swords is clear, discerning truth. And the Queen of Pentacles is grounded, nurturing abundance like Mother Earth. And then we've got our King cards. That's the leader, the outward authority. Kings channel their suit outward. This is like structure, leadership, and mastery. And they represent responsibility and influence. Like Kings of Wands is like the visionary leaders. The Kings of Cups are like the compassionate guide, like the father, the quintessential father. King of Swords is the master of logic and intellect, authority of truth. And King of Pentacles is like wealth, stability, empire building. So these courts tell us a story too. You can think of them in a progression of the energy. The page learns, the knight acts, the queen embodies, and the king leads. And when you weave this progression through the 4 elements, you don't just have people. You have a symbolic language for growth. That's why tarot isn't about memorizing the cards. It's about watching the energy move through the cycles. Ace to 10, page to king, fire to water, to air to earth. And that's just the beginning. When you pull a card, be intuitive about it. Notice what jumps out at you. Is it a symbol, a color, a facial expression? Maybe how you're feeling in your body. That's your intuition, because tarot is co-creation, you guys. You bring your energy, the cards bring their archetypes, and together they speak. So the Tower could mean divorce for one person or a breakthrough for another, depending on what's going on. Lovers might be a relationship for some or a career choice for others. It's living, breathing, and shifting within you. And when you read for someone else, it's never about dictating their future. It's about opening a mirror, showing them patterns, possibilities, truths they can already carry, but maybe haven't seen clearly. So tarot is an invitation to reflect, to feel, and to trust yourself. So here's my invitation for you. If you have a tarot deck, pull a card today. Sit with it. Notice what you feel instead of looking at the meaning. And if you don't have a deck, think about the Fool's journey and think about where you're at on your journey. Because remember, this isn't about predicting the future. It's about reflecting. When I was going through my dark night of the soul, I pulled tarot every single night. So I hope that this inspires you to buy some tarot cards. And if this episode resonated, share it with someone who's curious about them. And if you're ready to go deeper, maybe someday I'll create a guided series where we explore each card one by one. But let me know if you'd like to listen to something like that. And until next time, may you walk your path with openness and trust the courage of the Fool, always ready to step into the mystery.